All right. Listen, everyone, whoever's watching through video, who's ever listening through audio, this is a person. And, just to cut to the chase, every intro that I have for the show is welcome back to the Julian J. Franco show, a show where I bring to you people who are genuine, not only in front of the camera, but behind the scenes. And as I was getting to, this individual, yes, is very famous, is a public figure, well known by millions of people, but I had the beautiful opportunity of spending time with him countless times when I was shooting video for him. And one thing that everybody has always said about him is that he is probably the most humble and down to earth person you'd ever meet. So I wanted to get that out the way before I get to his intro, because once I let you know what he's about, what he's accomplished, and what he's still doing, you're going to go, oh, this guy's untouchable. He must think that his head must be in the clouds, but it's definitely not. And that's why it is such a pleasure for me to have Mike O'Hearn on the show. He is probably, or arguably, one of the greatest fitness superstars, entrepreneurs on earth. And Mike O'Hearn, he comes from a big family, 9 brothers and sisters, and he's the youngest. So that's interesting. That's a crazy family dynamic. And he began competing in bodybuilding, powerlifting, and martial arts at the age of 13. And I want to go slow with this because people tend to just fly through his intro because there's so much. Literally, I wrote a book on what he's accomplished. So, by the age of 15, he won the teenage Washington State competitions in all 3 sports. And just to brag a bit more about him, he's been on over 500 fitness covers. I'm going to take a deep breath. You heard me correctly, over 500 fitness covers, and he's second to only one other person, and that's Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is ridiculous. And not only is that his last accomplishment, he's also an actor. He's been in many of your favorite television shows. He's the face of many supplements, 4-time California powerlifting champion, 4-time Mr. Natural Universe. He was an American Gladiator, the innovator of power bodybuilding, and so much more. So Mike, I actually want to give you a chance to talk on the show because I can just keep on and keep on. So my first question to you, Mike, you hear all these great things about you. When you're in your office, you look around, all you see is trophies and magazine covers and supplements. What is it that you're the most proud of currently today?
Oh, geez, that's my son, and my involvement with pups and animals, and just staying grounded too. Just it's interesting you said that, because you're one of these guys. Like when Mona describes you, when we talk about you, Mona describes you. She's just like, you're legitly who you are, but you're always that kind of guy that's always. I can't tell if something's bad in your life, because you always look on the right side of things, and you're always like, I'm good and happy. And so that's just something from us to you, that we just think that you're a joy to be around. And so your energy is it brings people up. So
I really appreciate
yeah.
that, Mike.
So, my son, I'm proud that I did something like this, became a father. I was not the guy to be a father when I was younger. I thought, no, I'm good with that. And I'm so glad I made that path.
And I can only imagine why you said that I'm good with being a father, because you're the type of individual, and I want to get into this. Anybody who knows about you and who deeply studies you, they understand that you have one of the, if not, like and again, I sound like I'm trying to flatter you, but it's really not the case, because the proof is in the pudding at this point. But your mindset is so incredible, and nobody gets to where you've been and stays where you've been for as long as you've been and continue to do without having the mindset to do it, because this doesn't happen by mistake. So I can only imagine, hey, in Mike's mind, Mike's like, I can't be a father because I'm a father to millions of people all over the world, through my dedication to my art. So what made you decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to take the chance and I'm going to become a father?
I think it's a combination of 2 things. One is definitely the partner, the baby mama. That was like the first step. And I'm glad I waited. I'm an older father, and I'm glad I wasn't a young father. I wouldn't have been able to accomplish what I accomplished that way, or my life would have been much different. But I was a much more mature person at this stage, and having somebody, I think there's a difference, and this is, I know this is outside of fitness and all that in life, but there's a difference between uh, having a child with a partner that you know can handle and make it another level, another step up. And so I know a lot of people, I would have been one of those people that at 20 goes, oh, I'm in love with this girl, I want to have a child with them. Instead of going, I have somebody that could be a great mother. And I think Denzel Washington said it the best. He says, looks, personality, all that stuff is great, but that's going to be the mother of your child. Is she that quality of a person that could raise somebody and with or without you? Because, life's not guaranteed to anybody. And so that was another big step. It's like, so that was one of the biggest steps. And then, yeah, that was the really thing that said, okay, I can do this with this person, relative to me just kind of, I want to have a child to have a child. That wasn't my take. And I also understand this for a lot of people going, well, no, life's about having a kid. Okay, but I came from 10. There was 10 kids in our family. And so my upbringing was different than most. And so it wasn't something that I was focused on relative as a young kid. I was more focused on career and traveling the world and doing what I was doing and stuff. And then it got to a point to where I met this lady later in my life, and I said, done deal. And then doing it, I can't express now that I'm on that side of the fence and I know what it's like to be a father. Now I understand the incredible feeling it is.
I totally hear you. And it's a beautiful thing because you're so right. When you're in your early 20s, you meet a girl, you're like, oh, I love her, she's the best. And then you want to make a long-term commitment to have a child. And then, like you said, with Denzel, after a while, you realize you made a huge mistake. And that's not something you want to make a mistake on. But, everyone listening right now will kill me if I don't ask you this. And it's going to sound a little vain, but I just need to. You are a very good looking individual, right? You have almost everything. Oh, a movie star, right? If people don't know you from the fitness world and they saw you walking down the street, I'm sure you get stared at 24/7 because they're like, oh my gosh, that's Superman, or, that's a Titan. Like, they have that. So my question to you is, what made you decide to settle down with Mona? So it's a two-part question. How in the world did you meet Mona? And then number two, at what point did you go, you know what? I'm going to put my horse blinders on and I only have eyes for her now.
I've been pretty incredible when it comes to life and setting goals and training, goal setting for the theatrics and the movies and gladiators and stuff like that. The one thing I always settled for was dating girls that were in my league, I guess you would say. Hey, she's hot, I'm young, cool deal, have fun. I think she was the first person I ever really met, female, that was above, wasn't suited for me. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to change to get this. I'm gonna have to become something more to become. And it came at a right time in my age where I was like, I need to ante up and raise my level another step. I don't know who said it, but they said it was a great statement. It says, don't date somebody that fits you or that's comfortable for you. Date somebody above you that makes you have to rise up to another level. And so it was those steps. I've been in this industry since 1987 was my first covers and magazines. 87, before you were born. And so being in the magazines and being in that limelight, it still took forever for me to grow up in some parts of my life or understand that all the points of your life actually function together. And just because I was being a savage over here didn't mean I was being a savage in every position. And that's where I kind of go, okay, I got to make every part of my life be more precise.
And that's the beauty of you. Not only people can tell you're precise and you're very intentional and highly strategic when it comes to your body, right? So your body is like a walking sculpture that people can already tell. And you've been in an incredible, flawless shape since, the early 80s till today. And one thing I heard you say, which I really loved, and it stuck with me. You said, everybody wants to be a millionaire for the day, and then they just want to spend it. So, Mike, just get into how the heck you've been so consistent and why people have that mentality of, they're going to be the king for the day and then the next day they're a peasant,
Yeah, I think the metaphor that I say you want to be a millionaire for a day and then they blow the money is the same thing for health and fitness. Because for some reason, when it comes to money, people understand, oh no, I don't want to make $1 million I'd like to have money throughout my life. But when it comes to the physique, they chalk it up to, well, you can be in shape in your teens and your 20s, but then after college, you kind of peaked and then you kind of dropped down, and then you got work and life and family in 30s. It starts to get worse by 40. Hey, I'm not bad for 40 kind of an attitude. And I'm like, average of 40? That's not what I want. The average of 40 around America, that's not a good looking 40 to me. It's a small percentage of people that are still walking around Tom Cruise, almost 60, looking like that. That's the level that I'm believing in. And I don't understand why people don't comprehend that that's something you could do. People go, hey, you're in great shape for 50. How'd you do that? I got in shape when I was 13 and never got out of shape. It's as simple as that. I got in shape and stayed in shape. But yeah, that's my saying is, do you want to be a superhero for a day or for a lifetime? Be in shape for your life. And again, it's not about living until you're 150. It's about what the quality of life is while you're here. That's it. And for some people, for the majority of people, which I hate, that the average is okay. It's not okay. It's not okay for me to live my life that way. I don't want to be average. Never did. I love the fact that I grew up with a learning disability that automatically told me from the school system and from life, you're below average. You're less. You're with the special kids. I'm like, I'll show you a special kid now. I'll show you this. I'll carry that chip through my entire life because I love that chip on my shoulder. Because it wasn't that I just, there was a small pool of kids my age in the magazines and newspapers and doing what I was doing. And then it becomes, in your 20s and 30s, there's a lot of good athletes and it's a big gene pool again. But I got to the top of that. And I got to the very pinnacle top of that. And then it lowers again, the small pool of people, because by 30, the athletes and bodybuilding are, fading out. By 40s, they're done. And, there's nobody in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. And so it's a small pool of people again. And it's fun for me to go, I went through this whole process. Now I made mistakes. I'm going to teach you guys how not to make those mistakes so you could even do it easier than I did it. And I think that's the fun thing about now being a father, going, I need to give this information to these people. And that's how, I've been doing power bodybuilding since I started this. And then I just added to it and created this incredible way of lifting to where it's not deterioration to the body. It's strengthening the body. It's making the body better. And so when everybody says, well, you weightlifting, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're making the body. No, it makes it stronger. That's a great thing about mindsets. If you stress the mind, it gets stronger. And that's a hard thing for people to do, to think, to have those debates, to have the discussions. But it's stressful, but it makes you more intelligent. And it's the same thing with weightlifting. The more stress you have, the stronger it gets, not the weaker it gets. And the way you eat. So all those kind of facets has set me up to live this way in the way that I'm doing it now. So roundabout way, man, I'm loving this and I'm loving the journey, and I'm loving that I was told that I wouldn't accomplish this and I wouldn't have this kind of lifestyle and I wouldn't be able to be on the magazines at this stage or even 20, 30 years ago.
Mike, listen, I can listen to you talk all day and I find myself to be speechless because, especially for this one thing, if there's anything that I want the audience listening today to really walk away with that I feel is not stressed enough, well, it's two things, but I'll say one thing and then I'll say the more important one. Number one, you're a myth buster. All these myths that people believe and things of that nature. And people won't notice it till later, but you are changing the perception and the mindset of so many people of what's capable, of what's doable, what's possible. And yes, like you said, it's going to stress your mind out. It's going to stress your body out, but that's the only way you're going to actually grow. And guess what, Mike? We don't want to be stressed out, right? We want to play it safe. We want to do what's comfortable. So that's all fine and dandy. But really, to me, the most important thing when it comes to you is literally when I was communicating with you just behind the scenes, the way that you would interact with me. Anybody of your stature that has the fame and the power that you have and just the longevity, they almost talk to people as if they're maybe cockroaches, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, do this. What's up? But you speak to people as if I wouldn't call them your equal, but you don't look down at people. You look at them eye level. And again, people who have met you that I talked to you about and they met you, they go, oh, yeah, man, that guy's super nice. He's super kind. What is it that allows for somebody to reach heights and be on movie sets and be on, just you just crush it at life, but yet your head is never in the clouds? What, Mike, I want you to really answer this. What allows you to be the people's people? You're just like, oh, you drive me crazy, man. Go ahead.
I think that it's just I do I have money? Sure. Do I think I have money in myself? No. I wake up every day feeling like I'm broke. I haven't started my fitness career. I still live in that little 10 by 10 apartment when I first moved to LA. There is a rooted mic within the mic that you see. And that rooted mic is when I walk in the gym, I'm 14 years old again, walking in, smelling. There's I can still smell the baby powder because in powerlifting, you use baby powder to take the weights up and that smell and the sweat. I'm that 14-year-old kid every time I walk through the gym. And so, and when I walk to my house, I'm still, I see the house. I'm living in it. But to me, it's still that 10 by 10 that I purposely suffered not to spend the money so I could create some kind of future for me later on in life instead of living the high means. I'll forever be that kid, and I'll forever be the kid in special ed where I was getting in fights with all the kids that were in regular classes because they would pick on those kids in special ed, and that's just who I am, and I just live that life in my mind so much that's who I'll ever forever be. I don't think I'll never be the millionaire guy with the looks and strength, and and life doesn't work that way. Which is, we both know this could all be taken away tomorrow, and to be the very best for a moment, you just got to be the best. You got to be a great athlete or whatever it is, but it's character that keeps you on top.
And I think your character and also your mindset and your physique is 50-50, right? Because nobody's going to keep inviting you to pose on stages. Nobody's going to keep inviting you to be the face of their supplement or their brand. Nobody's going to keep inviting you to be on, these huge bodybuilding documentaries. It's because they like your presence. They like the guy and again, it just kills me because it's silly when somebody gets one taste of success, they're like the biggest diva in the world. And you've had your fair success that thousands and millions of people will never even taste. But the fact that you maneuver with such kindness, and it's genuine too, is just, to me, that's one of the most beautiful things. Now, when it comes to your friend group, because you don't like average, you don't deal with average. Now, how has it been difficult for you throughout your career to make friends and keep friends? Because I know if somebody's just not at that league, I feel like you probably don't wanna be around them.
I'm a real lone wolf. So in that aspect, and then also I am found my foundation is my schedule.
Mm,
And I know my buddy of mine, John, who I've known this guy for since I was 18, 19. And he's this motivational speaker. He goes around and he always introduced me before I come on stage. He talks about how we've known each other forever. And he talks about how he came over to stay at my house one time because we were doing a seminar here. and it got to be like 7 o'clock or whatever it was. And he just got there 15 minutes before. And I was like, all right, good to see you, man. I'm off to bed. And he always talks about that because my schedule is my schedule. And the reason why I say that is because my friends know that I'm into that schedule. I like to be up at 3 a.m. I like to train at 4 a.m. I'm off to bed at this time. And the cool thing about that is, and I think if more people did this, they always talk about if you could have 5 close friends, you're golden. And my friends that I've had have been friends since those early days. When I was breaking into the industry, or when I got into the industry, this first stages, and we were struggling going to castings or whatever it was, those guys are still my guys today. And it's just, you build a real bond when you stay true to who you are instead of, I guess the bottom line is be who you are 100% instead of trying to be famous and have the most friends. Because most friends doesn't do anything for anybody.
At the end of the day, it's just noise, right? Having a million friends and everybody coming over every single day and blowing up your phone. It's noise, it's distractions. And really, I just want people watching, listening to really understand that nobody becomes Mike O'Hearn with being distracted 24/7. Like, you are probably one of your biggest attributes has to be your amount of focus and your laser like, determination. So what would you tell people who find themselves saying, hey, I started working out, but 1 week into it, I stopped. I started eating and meal prepping. 1 week into it, I stopped. They just always keep stopping. They never continue. What in your life allows you to just remain consistent? Because Mike, I know you're a human. Sometimes you get to the point where you're like, I don't want to do this today. You know what I mean? Like, I got what on my schedule? I got all these, media, opportunities, and I got to do this. I got to do on this phone call. Some days I know you just don't feel like doing it. So what keeps you just, focused and keeps distractions at bay?
Remembering that plate was empty at some times. And now that the plate is full, and it's full mostly every day, don't be taking that for granted. Don't be, that's just, and it really has to come down. I posted something the other day, and it was off of this last diet. I just got incredible shape, probably the best shape I've ever been in my entire career, better than when I won the universe. And somebody goes, what's the point of getting in that kind of shape if you're not competing? And that struck me. I'm like, look at the mindset. So that person or people like that go, well, if you're going to get in that kind of shape, you should compete. It's never about the trophy. It didn't matter if I won the universe or didn't win the universe. And that's what I see. I see champions, and it's what you do after you win. It's what you do after you get the movie, the break, that moment, you get the job you want. What do you do after that? Do you still fight as hard before, what you were doing to get there? Or do you just kind of like, okay, I'm going to coast now? And the people that I know in my life and stuff, the trophy didn't mean anything. That was just a moment. Cool. Handshake. Great. Next thing, or move forward. It's never, that's the final stage. And it was interesting to me to somebody comment that, and I'm so removed from that mindset that I said to him, I said, do you think Jordan played basketball to be win this game or that game or whatever? He loved the game. He liked to play. He liked to do the battle, and Kobe talks about that. And those kind of guys that are at that level, it wasn't about just the Super Bowl. It was about the game itself and the battles within the trenches. And so for me, the life I live, it's that battle. I love that. And then, cool, we get to some spot and we do a photo shoot, or you want a show or something, that's cool, but you just continue forward. So for those people that are going, hey, I got to get in shape, this is it. How am I going to stay motivated? Motivation comes and goes. It's the worst thing in the world. Motivation comes and goes. It has to be passionate for you. There has to be something. If you're getting in shape for a girl or a guy, you ain't going to stay. That ain't going to happen, because that guy's going to break up with you. Or when if you don't get the girl, then you're like, all this was wasted. Or the job, it's all for this job. It's got to be something you freaking love beyond motivation, because motivation is going to go one day. And when that goes, how hard are you going to work?
That's right. That's right. And anybody who follows Michael Hearn, you hear him say all the time, he likes to tussle. That's his thing. He likes to tussle. He loves to go in there and fight and fight and fight. And I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up. And I just have two more questions for you. You coming from such a big family, and I love when you talk about your family. You're like, look, it humbled me and made me work harder because not only was I getting beat up by my big brothers, I was getting beat up by my sisters, you know? So it puts you in that place of always having to be determined and ambitious and, moving forward. Now that you have a son and your son doesn't have to compete for attention or anything of that nature, but what would you say is one thing that you want to give him that maybe you didn't get growing up that you realized later in life? Yeah, I kind of wanted this a bit.
Definitely the which my parents weren't bad parents; they were great parents, and they were beyond great because I don't know how they raised 10 kids.
Mm.
And there's nobody adopted. There was never a divorce. There was never that. They both worked. They both raised 10 kids, and so they were amazing. But it wasn't a lot of nurturing. We had to grow up. Uh, you know, we had to be men by 9 years old, paper route, help out with finances, start doing stuff. You want something, you make a mistake, it's on you, you know. And that was the discussion I had with my dad. He says, you can do whatever you want. You know, you're a man. You could, and he talked to me that way as a young boy, which I so think I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for special ed classes, if it wasn't being told you're slow, and if it wasn't for my dad saying, be a man at a young age. Those are huge things. I would like to nurture my son a bit and give him that time with me that my parents weren't allowed to because they worked their butts off so much. So that's one thing. And I do want to teach him when it comes to life and health and fitness and his body. He's going to be a huge human without exercise or anything like that. But I do want to teach him about nutrition can set you up to win in life. Exercise can set you up to win throughout your entire life. I've never, and I say this all the time, I don't care about bodybuilding, powerlifting. I don't need people to lift heavy. I just need people to understand that weightlifting is such an incredible thing for longevity, to stay healthy. And then nutrition is a beautiful, nutrition isn't like medicine. Nutrition is the medicine. And if you use it correctly, you are setting yourself up to win again. And I don't care what anybody says. I have too many multimillionaire friends that say, oh, you know, exercise, body, this and that and the other thing. They would all trade their incredible homes and yachts and everything just to be in healthy shape and not have achy shoulders and bad knees and a bad lower back. So don't tell me that that's not something that's everybody wants. And I love seeing these guys that, because social media is such an echo. Everybody just echoes the other person. I knew so many of these people that are so big and famous, and I'm like, dude, I knew you before you were famous from social media. That's not what you live, and that's not how you've lived it. And then I know others that have, and they continue to be who they are, and I love seeing that. But there's such a hype with the guy that is out of shape, the guy that has the money goes, I don't want the money. I'm doing great myself. And it's like, no, you're not. That's your facade you're trying to put over to people. Health is wealth, and that's such a cliche. It's 100% truth.
I
If
hear
you're
you.
healthy, you're enjoying life.
Mike, two more things. This is your
Oh,
last question, and then this one would just wrap everything up. It's a fun one. It's a fun and silly one. Now, what's something that you now understand, but before you probably didn't pay any mind to? So something that you now take seriously that before you would just go, eh.
uh, one of the things that I think is very important is living in the moment, and it's something that's very hard for me to do, and it's hard for a lot of people to do, but it's extremely hard for me to live in the moment and just be there. And so that's something I've really tried to fine tune this last decade, is just to live in the moment. Because again, those are going to be the things. Those moments are going to be the things that you remember. So that's something that I think as a youth, you think you have forever, and tomorrow's not promised to anybody. And what's is interesting to me again, this so much comes off of seeing how society or the majority thinks. So a guy says, "You waited too long to have your son," and I'm like, "Okay, that doesn't make sense." In if you're intelligent, that doesn't make sense because I know 20-year-olds that had kids and they didn't live over a year later. So it doesn't matter, you're intelligent enough to know this, but society doesn't look at it that way. They don't really comprehend. They just go, have a kid when you're 20. That way you can spend the next 40 years. That's not promised to you. And so one of the things that I notice is that I get to live and enjoy my family so much more than my parents did. And I don't take it for granted. And I don't take it for like, hey, I get this the next 50 years. I gotta suck up today. Today's today. Let's enjoy it and try to live in that moment. So that's one of the biggest things.
Mike, thank you for that. I think we all struggle with that, because we're all concerned about what's next on the schedule, right? Hey, Mona, what do we have at 12? What are we going to do at 1? And this and that. And you end up like not really immersing yourself wherever you're at. That's why I maneuver and I act the way I act, because this is incredible. It's not for, oh, how many views or how many people listen to it on their podcast. It's not for that. It's for this, right? Because if you're not doing it for this, for the connection that you have, then what are you really doing? Like you said, it has to be a passion. Now, Mike, your last
I
question.
love that you said that. Side
Yeah.
note, just gonna stop you because I think one of the big things that me and my team have jumped into, because we get requests to go, hey, will you do a workout with this person or a podcast with this person? And they're only asking it because that person is relevant for the moment. And that's cool. I get that. I understand that. And I understand popularity. But for me, it's like I had this guy on the other day, Steve Davis, which I don't think not everybody's going to know who that is. But to me, he's somebody that as a child, I saw him in the magazines. I knew he was a school teacher. I knew that he did stuff like my dad did. I know he was Mr. World. And I know that he was one of the leaders in the era of the golden era. And so it's like, that's who I want to talk to. That's who I want to sit down and go, what was it like? What kept you going? Why did you do this? So I'm glad you said that, because that's a tough thing for people out there. And I got a lot of Titan Crew members on here watching this. And I know that they sit there and go, hey, let's go out and go to the barbecue or whatever it is on this Friday night. And it's like, okay, that's good, but let me get a healthy meal together, and let's you and me really take the time. We haven't been able to hang together. Let's just us stay here and do this instead of going to the club or whatever it is. And so it's picking and choosing what's most important instead of what the world thinks is the most important, I guess you would say.
And that's difficult. And that's difficult because you either have to pick with your eyes or you pick with your spirit, what your heart is telling you, what your gut is telling you. Because with your eyes, it's just, hey, there's more influence for you, Mike. It's more reach for you. It's another, just media outlet. But you're too busy to say yes to everything. And people have to understand that, you're not being mean or upset or but a lot of people, they do get disappointed because they don't understand that mindset of you got to pick and choose, right? By you saying yes to doing this today, you have to say no to other things, and that's just how it works. But, people have to be in your shoes to truly understand you. But now to take it, like I said, because we got real serious, this was all perfect. Now, just to be silly, Mike, this is your last day on earth, right? Your last day on earth, and you get to have one final meal. So on a plate, you could put any food on that plate, and this will be your last meal. That'll be your send off. What would you have?
Titan burrito with some Piedmontese steak next to it. It's just too good, man. It's just too good. That's it. It really is. It's just so tasty. And we're doing it right when it comes to food and stuff.
I love it.
That's my heavy. And then I'd go for a swim with my boy Titan after that.
You see, that is beautiful. But the reason I was smiling so much, Mike, you didn't even take a second to think. You already knew.
That's too easy.
You
That's
already knew. Okay, and Mike, listen, number one, thank you so much for before I was even anybody in the videographer space or anything of that nature. I had no videos, no following, no nothing. I came up to you. I believe the manager at the time was, I think, Jason at Gold's Gym. He introduced me because I told him, you know, my passion for bodybuilding and you know, filming. And you and Mona were so gracious. Hey, we'll be here at this time. Come by if you want to capture any footage. And you not only did that once, you did it maybe 4 or 5 times. And again, you asked nothing of me. You never said, hey, when's this video coming out? Do this, do that. You just, hey, do what you need. And then at the end of our first session, I remember as you were walking out, you said, hey, man, did you get everything you needed? Anything else you want? And for you to treat somebody like me, again, who I couldn't do anything for you at that point or that time, and I didn't have an influence, or you weren't trying to, you just had no agenda, but that really showed me, and that made me a fan for life, so to speak, because people like that, it's easy to have that attitude when you're being filmed on IG, or you're doing an IG live, or you're doing Facebook. But when you're like that, literally in the gym when nobody else is watching, that to me means the world. And that's why, like, we start the show, same way we end it, the Julian J. Franco show, where we interview people who are genuine, not only in front, but behind the scenes. And Mike, you got that so much. And Mike, this was incredible, man. Incredible. Thank you. Mike, is there anything else you want to do to close the show?
No, keep doing your thing, because I love that you're doing this. I love that you're doing this. And I hope the audience understands, especially in today's day and age and what we've been going through, is that there's sometimes there's two sides to an individual, and what they see is not who the person really is. And I love that you're doing this with people that you know live it and are that individual. So I appreciate your time, brother.
All right. Well, Mike, you are the man. Whenever you want to come back on the show, you let me know. And everybody go to titanseries.com, right? That's where all your supplements are right now.
Yep. Titan Crew. Yep.
Titan
Anything
Crew.
Mike O'Hearn, type it in. You'll find me.
All right. Well, listen, after this, literally, I'm going to be ordering a whole package. Do you have like package deals?
Yep, we do. We do. I'm going to send you over a little gift package, though. So,
well, okay, do that. And I'm also going to order, because I just have to find ways to thank you. You know what I mean? And also, I'm not only thanking you, I'm thanking my body. You know what I mean? So supplements, we all need them. So, and I definitely don't have any in my cupboard right now. So, Mike, I'll keep you here forever, but I know you're busy. Thank you so much, Mike. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
Thanks, brother. Talk soon.